Welcome to this video of my Lotus Essex Formula 1 model car collection. It's set back in the 1980s when for a couple of years Lotus were being sponsored by Essex Oils, a British oil company, and really this collection is centred around this car here, but there's a few other things I'm going to show you, and then there's some bonus features towards the end that I might mix in on the way through. So if we start with this Formula 1 car here, we've basically got the Elio De Angelis Lotus 81, a significantly ground effect car from the ground effect era of Formula 1, and of course a couple of years later Elio De Angelis was teammates with Ayrton Senna, and in fact that was in the days of the JPS Lotus, John Player Special, and they even had a pair of matching Sinclair C5 little electric scooter things. I'll try to have a photo here, but there we go, the 1980 Lotus 81, which then followed through into the first part of the next year of racing. And you'll see a very distinctive livery here for the Essex, red, blue and silver. So not just a paint silver or foil finish there. This model car is by Mini Champs, 43rd scale. Obviously it's got the Cosworth DFV in the back, and the helmet is in the Elio De Angelis colours, number 12, car number 12 there. Now, to go around this car, which came third in the Brazilian Grand Prix in 1980, I've got the winning Renault of René Arnoux, and also here the second place car, the Williams of Alan Jones. The Renault is a Spark model car, the brand Spark, and the this Alan Jones Williams is a Mini Champs car, and it's got a removable engine cover there again to show the platform area of the ground effects. You see it quite well there. So so that's the podium for the 1980 Brazilian Grand Prix. See if I can get that back on. There we go. Right, so you'll notice there's a couple of other features in the collection. So let me move these two out of the way, and I'm going to bring into place this Spark Models Honda TN Acti with a Cosworth DFV in the boot, in the load area, plus, which can be removed. Nice detail there, and a little removable, you can see it there, little removable toolkit. But this is the basically the micro car type, the K car little cargo vans that we used to have quite a lot of these around in England in the 80s and 90s. Again, in the Essex colours with the stripe, a little bit of silver on there too, and just a lovely little thing to have in with a Lotus Essex collection. Nicely modelled there. Now you have to be careful when buying these, because there's a problem with the way they're mounted in their display case, and the way it's screwed up inside. It's pretty difficult to get those off, and you can end up buying one which is basically ruined because you can't take the base off. So check that as soon as you buy one. Right, okay, now in addition to that, I managed to find a supplier of figures, and they had a Colin Chapman JPS liveried figure, and I asked them to do an Essex version. You see he's holding his cap down in his left hand there, and he's wearing the Essex jacket, which should really be a more reflective silver rather than a grey there, but Colin Chapman. Now interestingly, Elio De Angelis' first win for Colin Chapman was the last race that Colin Chapman threw his hat in the air as the car finished the finish line, because it wasn't long after that Colin Chapman died. So there we see a 43rd scale Colin Chapman, and so we'll move on to the Bell Jet Ranger helicopter in Essex livery colours. This is another Spark model. It is available in JPS livery too if you want, if you like that. I do like the JPS livery, but I really like the Essex Oils livery. So it's got a rotating rotor, skids, etc. No pilot, so you can't hang this in the air, but lovely model there to add to the collection. So Team Lotus had their own helicopter and their own Honda van. Right, so in addition to the race team vehicles, Lotus obviously for their road cars wanted to do a bit of marketing, so they came out with the 1980 Lotus Elite, which is basically a sportback or a shooting brake style of vehicle, similar to the Lotus Eclat, which I'll show you in a second. But this is a Series 2 Elite in the Essex Oil colours, and this model is by Spark as well. So they produced a limited run of these in 1980, but it's a 4-seater car and an opening hatch on the back. Very 70s style vehicle. I've seen a couple of these around and about. You get them in the UK, not much elsewhere, but not a bad car. Now the Series 2, you'll notice the wheels, you've got these kind of 5-spoke style wheels. Now I've got a slightly earlier Series 1 Eclat, so if I just hold up, you'll be able to see the Eclat is basically the same car but with a fastback tail to it. Now this is a Series 1 Eclat, so the wheels are significantly different, and I prefer these wheels to the Series 2 wheels. The Series 2 wheels are the same as you got on a Series 2 Esprit. You can see the pattern there. But in my mind that was the more elegant Giugiaro original as it was intended design. Let me pop those back down. And then you also had the Lotus Turbo Esprit, so in the Essex Oil colours. So this is one of the very early Turbo Esprits. You had the Giugiaro designed Esprit in the 1970s. I've got a Series 1 here. I'm just going to show you a Series 1 Esprit. This is the same basically as the original James Bond Esprit. You can see it there. It's only a 2-litre naturally aspirated car. This is an AUTOart model. You can see it's got very 70s style wheels on it, but a Giorgio Giugiaro design. Excellent car, lovely model as well. You can get it with you can get this in white in the James Bond spec if you want, but I quite like this yellow one. But going back to the Lotus Turbo Esprit in the Essex colours, this is an early Esprit Turbo. You can tell because it's got the split rims with the Allen bolts all the way around, and it also has an overhead console. You can see my review on this car, a better review on this car on my channel. I'll put a link in the description. You can open the engine compartment and cover inside, and there you have the Essex Esprit. The blue on this is slightly lighter than the Spark cars, which seem to be slightly darker. I don't really know you'll be able to find videos of these online, see what you think of the actual thing. Right, so I'm going to just introduce another early Turbo Esprit, and some of you will recognise this as the Bond Turbo Esprit. Again, it's a very early one with the split rims. Later they just had single piece wheels which were a bit cheaper. They're BBS alloys, but this car also has the Goodyear markings on the tyres, just like that Essex one. So this is a mini Champs model in 43rd scale. That larger Esprit was an 18th scale by AUTOart. Both of those are both of those larger Esprits by AUTOart. So this is specifically the Bond car. Anyway, so that's a little bonus on the side. And really, we've come to the end of looking at the collection of Essex liveried vehicles, and we're now going to just look at a couple of bonus vehicles. The most surprising of which are perhaps this pair of soapbox racers, which competed at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, not on the hill climb, on the hill descent, and they were designed by Lotus Cars in the noughties, I believe, 2000 and something. Anyway, managed to get a couple of these. They're again by Spark models, and they're 43rd scale. Lovely little things. You've got to be super careful with them. But so they're unpowered vehicles, and they just roll down the hill, and I believe they were pretty competitive vehicles. So right, a couple of other specials. I'm a bit of a fan of Pikes Peak, and who knew that Lotus made a Pikes Peak vehicle? Well, they had the Lotus 23, competed by I think maybe it's Al Unser. I'll put a correction on screen if that's incorrect, but you'll find this model around, a Pikes Peak Lotus 23 from the 60s, mid-engine, 4-cylinder again. Basically all of these cars, most Lotuses are 4-cylinder cars back in the past, except they did move on. The Europa was even a 4-cylinder car. This is based on the Lotus Elise cum Exige. It's like a luxury Gran Turismo version, but still it's a super lightweight car. I mean, if you are familiar with what an Elise is like, you'll understand it's never really going to be a GT, but I quite like it. So this model, I believe, is by AUTOart, 43rd scale again. And then we get into multi-cylinder Lotuses with this black and gold a la JPS colour scheme, John Player Special tobacco livery. But this is way after when JPS was sponsoring Lotus, so it was really just a retro colour scheme in the mould of JPS. But of course the Formula 1 team, there were two Formula 1 teams named Lotus at one point, and one of them had this livery, and or something like this, and you can see this was probably modelled on that car, Lotus Evora here. So that's a V6, so unusually for and this would have been a supercharged one. So this model is by Spark again. They do seem to do a fair number of Lotus models, which is good. And then the final model to show you today is the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton, otherwise known as the Opel Lotus Omega, and that's a big four-door saloon from the early 90s. Came out at about 92, ran through 93, and it was quite a thing at the time, obviously competing really directly with the M5 BMW, because it had a 3.6 litre twin turbo GM engine that had been modified greatly by Lotus. But it's a butch car. When you see these on the road, I last saw one a couple of years ago, and they've got extra wheel arch extensions, and they really stand out as quite a butch looking car. So there we go. thank you for watching, and do subscribe to the channel and have a look at my other videos, and there'll be more over time as well. Thank you. Bye.